Hello everyone, and welcome back to another digital audio player review. This is the Shanling M0 Pura. It is a very small form factor digital audio player. It's non-Android, so it doesn't run Android. It's mostly focused on local offline playback in the situations where you want something very small and portable. So I'm going to front load this review a little bit by getting right into who this is for and who this is not for. Just because the nature of this style of digital audio player, it's definitely has its own niche, I would say. So who is this for? This digital audio player is for someone who's looking for a very portable, lightweight DAP without sacrificing on a lot of the quality of life features like USB DAC support, Bluetooth DAC support, Bluetooth, a decent amount of output power, as well as the ability to have a 4.4 millimeter output connection via this adapter cable, as well as someone who has maybe an active lifestyle. They need something small and portable to put into like a clip case, because there is a clip case available for this, to just connect to your shirt or your shorts, whatever, go running, go to the gym. You have your Bluetooth headphones connected. I've taken these to the beach, these small form factor digital audio players, just because they're so portable and lightweight and you don't need a lot of space for them. So they're really good for like active lifestyles. Anything you need a small footprint like this, as well as there is no like Wi-Fi or internet connectivity of any kind with this. So if you're in a situation, government work, school, that sort of thing, where they prohibit devices that connected to the internet or to Wi-Fi, this is a good option because it doesn't have Wi-Fi on it, and there just is no internet connectivity options on it. Who is this not for? This is not for someone who has a hard time seeing small screens, because this is a small screen. It's not for someone who needs a lot of output power. If you need a portable powerhouse, this probably isn't going to be for you. This is not going to be for someone who does not like touchscreens or wants physical buttons, or only wants physical buttons, because there is just one button on here. So there is a button, but if you want like dedicated playback controls, physical controls, this probably is not going to be for you. So with that out of the way, let's get into it a bit more. So first off, full disclosure, Shanling did provide the M0 Pura for my review, but as always, they didn't have any say or input into what I say, into what I think. So everything in here is my own personal opinion and thoughts, and Shanling won't even see this video until you do. So with that out of the way, let's briefly just get into the specs. I say briefly because I won't go over everything here, just touch on a few things. So if you want to pause video and take a look at the specs, feel free to do so. But the M0 Pura is being sold for $140 US. As I mentioned, it only has a single output, a 3.5 millimeter single output, but you can get a balanced connection using an adapter, which I'll show and get into. There's no Wi-Fi, there is Bluetooth, so therefore it does not support any music streaming services at all. It supports micro SD cards up to 2 terabytes, and there is no internal storage. If you know Shanling's non-Android DAPs, then you might be familiar with the operating system here. It's their M-Touch OS. It's also on DAPs like the M1 Plus, which I'm very fond of. And this fourth generation of the M0, the M0 Pura, uses 2 CS43131 DAC chips. So let's get into it. Let's go into what is in the box first. So just take this out here. So typically the DAP will come in here. There we go. Everything's very neatly packed. In here you just get a USB cable. So it is a USB-A to USB-C cable. Pretty standard as far as these things go. And in this little package here, you get a bunch of documentation, as well as a spare screen protector, because there's already a screen protector pre-applied to this, which I do like when manufacturers do that, but you get a nice spare one here, just in case, You get the quick start guide, you get the history of Shanling, and you get the warranty information. So as far as packaging goes, I like Shanling's minimalistic nature to their packaging while still keeping a little bit of fun and color to it. Always do appreciate seeing that. And as far as accessories go, so here I have a leather case, and they do sell a range of different colors of leather cases. And if you have, like, I have this one here. This is from my M0 Pro, but this will fit actually the M0 Pura. And it fits it rather snugly. This is the M0 Pura case, and mine's a little bit, I guess, it seems like maybe there was a manufacturing issue because it doesn't quite fit so, nicely. It doesn't go quite down all the way. But if you, get this through Shanling and there's that kind of issue, you can get that replaced for sure. Shanling's after-sales support is actually very good, especially compared to a lot of other DAP manufacturers. But anyways, I like the color, nice orange color. It's a nice thin case, it's not too hefty. You get access to all of the buttons and controls and the screen. So, as far as case design goes, this is very nice. It's also very snug. And this is the 3.5mm to 4.4mm adapter, so it's just basically what it says. You connect it to the output on the M0 Pura, and you get a 4.4mm connection. Now, so both these are sold separately. When I find the prices, I will try and post them here and in the description below. But just to note, this adapter cable, it doesn't mean you can just plug this into any 3.5mm output connection on any device. The device has to be wired for it, and the M0 Pura is wired internally to support a balanced connection through the 3.5mm connection. That's why this works, so don't just try plugging this into anything expecting you'll get a balanced output. It needs to be wired, and it's not that straightforward. Why I mention that is because I have seen people try to do that. So we'll just move that stuff to the side, and well, we'll get right into the build quality and design of this thing. And I'm just going to clean the screen off because I am marking it up a little bit here. So the M0 Pura, this is sort of a red, sort of magenta kind of color, which I really like. Looks kind of fun, really nice. Kind of reminds me back of the iPod Nano days, which is nice. And as you can see, like in terms of a smartwatch, it's basically the same kind of size, really. So this is a Galaxy Watch Classic 8, Galaxy Watch 8 Classic. Apple Watch is about the same size, so basically you're using a watch at this point. So that's just for the size difference. And if you want to see like the size of it compared to some other devices here, so this is a HiBy R1, Tempotec Variations V1, and this is the Shanling M1 Plus. So you can see just how small actually this thing is. Like it's tiny. It's literally half the size of the V1. And overall, quite thin, as you can see. So this is just to give you an idea of how small this thing actually is. Yeah, it's pretty incredible, to be honest with you, to fit the amount of features you saw in the specs into something like this. There is obviously a screen on the front with bezels on the top and bottom. On the right side is the only button on this device. It is a volume knob, which is also a clicky button. And the knob itself actually feels pretty good to use. It has a nice little tactile feedback to it when you're turning it. I maybe would wish that it had a little bit, stiffer resistance to it, but as far as volume knobs go on a $140 digital audio player, this is pretty good. I also like just the ergonomics of this because on the sides they have these indents where it makes it kind of easy to hold it, just like this. So it's just pretty nicely designed for such a small device. On the very top is sort of this smooth texture to it. There's just nothing here. It's just to make it look nice. On the very bottom is where all of the connectivity is. So micro SD card slot. I've already got a micro SD card in here, a USB-C connection, and the 3.5mm connection. Because on the other side, there's nothing, as I showed you, and on the back is just the general, information you usually see. And if we bring the other DAPs over here, so let's do it this way. So this is the M0 Pro, this is the M0s, and the M0 Pura. The dimensions are identical. That's why the cases work. So if you buy or already have cases from these other two, the M0 Pro and M0s, they will work just fine on here, on the M0 Pura, and vice versa. So dimensions are all literally the same. The volume knob does feel a little bit stiffer, so maybe they tweaked it a little bit, or it could just be unit variation, I'm not sure, but I do notice a slight difference. And the other difference is, besides this little Shanling logo, which is on the M0s, the only other difference really is that on the bottom, these two have a flap for the micro SD card, whereas this does not. I don't like the flap because I don't like when you have something physical that over time it could potentially break off. And maybe they realized it and that's why they didn't put it on here. So I appreciate they went just with this because I usually don't have issues with the micro SD card slot to begin with. So, and if you see, I just got easy to take the card out and in. This is a 512 gigabyte card. And as you can see, it is all exactly the same. And just to show you, this is the M0 Pro and the M0s. And if we turn these guys on, M0 Pro, M0s, and we'll turn this guy on, M0 Pura. So the interface is literally exactly the same, and let's make sure the brightness is increased on all of these. And it's a little bit like, so as you can see, there is a slight difference on here. Now, I don't know if it's just because of the theme I'm using. Maybe I'll change it to the black theme just to see, but I guess they did slightly change the iconography on the M0 Pura. So as you can see, this now playing is a little bit more squared compared to the more circular on here. Otherwise, there is literally no difference between all three of these DAPs. So that's why the M0 Pura is more of like a incremental upgrade over the M0s and M0 Pro. In fact, I would say this essentially combines these two DAPs because these two DAPs have different DAC chips in them. The M0s has a single CS43131 DAC, and this has AKM DAC, I believe. I'll put it on the screen when I find it and remember, but it does have a different DAC chip than these other two. And the M0 Pro also can use this cable, this 3.5mm to 4.4mm cable. The M0s cannot. So the M0 Pura essentially combines those two into this one DAP. So those are the main differences. If you have a previous version, one of those versions, and you're looking at the M0 Pura to see if it's going to be an upgrade. I will tell you right now, this is not enough of an upgrade to justify buying if you already have the M0s or M0 Pro. It's very incremental, and you're better off buying, buy whatever your needs are, or if it needs to be replaced because of a technical issue, then of course. But in essence, the M0 Pura does replace the M0s and M0 Pro. Those will not be sold anymore, at least officially. Anyways, so that's the overall design and hardware and everything, and a little bit of comparison to the other two generations of the M0. And as I showed you, basically the OS is the same, just very minor cosmetic changes. Like that was the only one I actually noticed. This sort of more squared off look of the icons on here. Everything else is the same. So everything I'm about to show you is going to apply to the other two DAPs as well. So as I mentioned before, this runs Shanling's M-Touch OS, which I'm actually pretty fond of just from a feature and practicality standpoint, because it does a lot of things right that I think aren't done enough in the digital audio player space, which I'll get into. So on the main screen here, you have the play pause indicator, you have the volume, you have the time, and you have the battery indicator. A couple of things I will note first off. Right now it is 12:14 and this says it is 12:17. Some people might know that on the other two devices, the M0s and M0 Pro, there was an issue with clock drift. It is still present on the M0 Pura. So that means that over time, the clock will slowly drift away from its original time that you set. Kind of annoying, but it's a digital audio player, so in my opinion, not the end of the world, just something to be aware of. And two, I wish the battery indicator had a percentage. This is not something that they've implemented on their other M-Touch OS DAPs, and I think it has to do with the way they measure the battery level. So it's disappointing that there is no percentage value for the battery, but I guess that's just what it is. So on the main screen here, we get several options. So you have now playing, system settings, playback settings, folder browser, my music, which is your music library, and then back to now playing. If you swipe from the bottom and go up, you get this sort of like quick access menu where you can turn on and off Bluetooth, change the playback type. So if you want shuffle or repeat or single repeat or single order, you can do that. Brightness and playback controls. Otherwise, there's no like other, anything like that. Obviously, everything on here is going to be gesture based because there is no like physical controls other than the volume knob, which if you use it here, you just change the volume. And you click it in to turn the screen off and turn the screen on, and also turn the device off and on. In the system settings. So you have to obviously update the database to index all the music that's on your micro SD card. I'll go into transferring music and M3 playlist support in a little bit here. But just note that this doesn't do incremental indexing. So every time you add or remove music, you have to go and update the music this way. And it'll rescan the whole card. For this card, I have about 10,600 songs. Most of it is FLAC, and it takes about 8 to 10 minutes for it to complete. Which sounds like a long time, and it kind of is. But me personally, I don't add or remove music that often, maybe once or twice a month, if that. So it's not the biggest issue in my opinion, but it is something you need to be aware of if you're not used to that. Next, we have the Bluetooth settings. We also have SyncLink, which is Shanling's sort of remote control software. So if you download the Edict Player app on iOS and Android, you can remotely control the DAP playback. We also have brightness here, screen off time, so you can enable lyrics or disable it. And I'm going to turn off the screen off time. So you have up to 40 seconds. Just for this review, I'm going to keep it off so the screen doesn't turn off. Idle. So you have two options for like idle power management. So there's this auto standby, and it even does tell you after 1 minute of idle, it will go into a standby mode. What that means is it will go into a very low power state where it turns off Bluetooth. So if you have Bluetooth on and you have headphones connected, when you turn this on and you leave this not playing any music with the screen off for more than 1 minute, it'll go into this standby state, turn Bluetooth off, and disconnect your headphones. So when you come back and you wake up the device by pressing the button to wake it up, it'll turn on Bluetooth, it'll reconnect to your Bluetooth headphones or whatever you had connected, but that takes a matter of seconds, so it won't happen right away. It also kind of means the device for a second or two is kind of unusable, like doesn't seem like it's responsive. It's just because it's waking up from that low power state. So this is something I've noticed, and it did throw me off before I understood the behavior. So that's just something to be aware of. So if you're confused why it's operating that way, that's why. There's also an auto shutdown. You can just auto shut down after a certain amount of time. Sleep timer, if that is your thing. USB mode. So if you select USB storage, when you connect this to a computer or an Android phone or something, this will just show as like external storage. So you can effectively copy files to and from the micro SD card. I always recommend using a USB to micro SD card adapter. It always goes way faster. So if you are able to invest in one, great, that's the best way to go. So USB DAC, so if you plug in a USB cable with this mode enabled, it'll turn this into a USB DAC. And USB audio means that you can use the USB-C output to connect a USB-C headphones or a USB-C DAC, which means you could also use something like a USB-C Bluetooth transmitter if you wanted to get access to more like advanced Bluetooth codecs. You know, something like the Sennheiser BTD700, the FIO AirLink, the Questyle QCC Dongle Pro, those kind of things. Clock, as I mentioned before, lock screen, so this just gives you a lock screen like this, and for me it's an extra step to go into it. I just usually turn it off. There's a volume lock, so it means that you'll lock the volume when the screen is off, so I set it to 50 there. I'm going to turn this on, and oh, it stayed at 50. Nice. So this just basically means that when you turn the screen off and you put this in your pocket, the volume won't be accidentally touched. There are wheel shortcut options. So there's two functionalities, double click and triple click. So the three options they give you for both of those is previous track, next track, and play pause. So for double click, I have play pause, and for triple click, I have next. You can choose your DSP or DSD mode. USB audio output, so you can set that to variable or fixed, depending on the context in which you're using it. You can also use the 3.5mm as a line out just by selecting this, and it sets the volume to max. That's really all it does. There's an in-vehicle mode where it will charge and power on depending on if it detects the power from the USB connection. There is also various themes, as I did show you a bit earlier. So, you know, a white one, which is kind of interesting. Maybe we get some like color matching red, blue. I like this sort of navy blue. This is my preferred one. I think it looks really nice. You also have language support, and you know, there's quite a bit of languages in here. So it's nice to see that it's made to be accessible in this way. About, so you can see the capacity and the remaining amount. Factory reset, as well as system updates. So if there is a firmware update for the M0 Pura, it'll be posted on Shanling's website. You just download the file, copy it to the SD card, hit this, and it'll find it on that micro SD card, and then update. Pretty straightforward stuff. Playback settings. So you can set the max volume. You can set the default volume. So this means that with this enabled, it will be whatever it was set at before. Or if you turn this off, you can always set it to a specific volume amount that you need. This is one of the quality of life features that I was talking about earlier that I think most DAP manufacturers overlook. So the ability to set the music library to view things as with the artist tag or the album artist tag. And I'll show a bit later why that matters, but I really like having this option in here. And if you tag your music correctly, using like MusicBrainz Picard or something, that will probably help you a lot. There is a resume mode, so you can do no like memory of like of what last track was played and where it was left off at. You can do just the track, or you can do the location of the track. We also have gapless support. So yes, all of Shanling's DAPs, they do support gapless. So the M0s, M0 Pro, M1 Plus, M5 Plus, or M5 Ultra, all support gapless playback, so mTouchOS does have that. If it's not working for you, you have to make sure you go in here and set it to enabled, not disabled. I think it is disabled by default. Anyways, there is also an EQ built in here, so we have some basic built-in EQ profiles, and 3 custom ones you can save, and it's just a basic 10-band graphic EQ, as you can see. up to 16 kilohertz with a plus or minus 6 decibels. It's okay, you know, it's nice to have that. I do think it's also only applicable to files that are up to 48 kilohertz. After that, it doesn't work. Just a limitation of the system. Oh, I guess one thing I didn't mention is the navigation. So if you want to go back, as you've seen me do, you just swipe from the left to the right and you go back. It doesn't need to be from the left edge. It can be, but it doesn't always work that way. It's more of like either in the middle or 3/4 of the way you can swipe back and it'll work. That is the only actual other gesture in this thing. So the gesture, the number of gestures is not complicated. There is replay gain. There's also a gain level, low or high gain. We have 4 filters here: fast roll off, slow roll off, low delay, fast roll off, and low delay, slow roll off. We also have a channel balance. And here is like, if you want to see the play modes instead of going into the quick settings from the main menu, these are the 4 play modes. And there's also a folder skip option. So what that means is if you're in the folder browsing view and you are playing through that and you have a folder with albums or songs in it, with this enabled, it will go to the next folder. With this disabled, it will stop once it reaches all the tracks in that folder. Speaking of, this is the file browser view or folder view, or as it calls it, just folders. So this is what's on the micro SD card right now, and however you organize your music on your card, this will show it. So I organize it by like the type, the artist, and the album, and the albums are named by the year. You can use programs like MP3 tag to automate a lot of this stuff to rename not only the folders, but also the files too, to get a consistent standard. So it, does a good job. It's pretty, it's a folder browser, so it's pretty straightforward. My music section. So this is where your music library will be. So here, that was my favorites. If we go open all, it is all tracks. So this, I can scroll through every single track I have on the card that has been indexed. MTouchOS has a 20,000 track limit for being indexed in this view. It has an essentially unlimited number of tracks supported in the file browser view, but just remember 20,000 in the music playback view. So as you can see, the scrolling behavior is kind of nice. I do find it's a little bit sensitive at times, so usually I want to be granular and I have to go really slow like this. And if you go really fast, then it goes like that. So even if you just start to go like this a little bit, it goes kind of fast. And it kind of has a momentum to it. On the right here, you can also do it by letter. It's alphabetical, so you can do that. So if I want to find everything under F, there we go. Album, same thing. These are all the albums, and we go into album here, shows everything. So that's what you would expect. Artist. So I have album artist selected in the view, as you saw. So this is showing everything with all the files tagged as an album artist, which is my preferred listening workflow. If I go back, and I'll just show you the artist view. And what's really nice is you don't have to rescan the library. It automatically has tagged or has indexed all of this. So if we go into my music and go into artist, and we'll just go to the very top, you'll see there's kind of now a lot more artists in here. So these names, and I'm pretty sure we'll get to where's one here? There's a track by Bush. Yeah, so I usually put if a track has a featured artist in it, I usually put that as the artist. Well, Music Brain's Picard does that, and I do like that it does that, so that's how that is viewed. The problem is if you only have the artist view option and you don't like to have your tracks broken up like this, you have to go in and re-tag all your music. But here, they give you the option to just go and select album artist. And now if I go back into artist, and we go up to B. And we'll just find Bush. There's only one option for Bush now. So that is what that means. Maybe this doesn't mean anything to you. Maybe you don't organize your music that way, but for those that do, this might be very important. And this is sort of why I show off this kind of stuff. Let's see. Oh, and I guess, of course, you can do alphabetical here as well. In all of these views, you can do the alphabetical scrolling. So composer, you know, everything by composer if you've tagged it that way. I'll just skip playlist for now. Genre. It does frequent tracks, recent tracks, and recently added. One thing I wish this had was sort of like an up next or a queue. And it's that's been one of my complaints of every single non-Android digital audio player is it misses this, like, being able to build a queue of songs you want to listen to without creating a playlist. You know, because that's what we used to have, you know, back in the late 2000s and early 2010s with, you know, iPods and Zunes and a lot of the Sony digital audio players. So I grew up listening this way, and I do miss that kind of functionality. If you do too, you should make your voice heard and let these companies know that you'd like to see that. Anyways, playlist. So this does have M3U playlist support. What that means is you can build playlists on your computer, whether it's Mac or PC, whatever. A lot of programs use M3U format, which is the standard for playlists. If you export those using a relative path, not absolute, then you will be able to import it on here and be able to have playlists. So here we go, playlists. And the overall organization of playlists is pretty basic. So it does it alphabetically. You can't put it into folders, you can't rearrange them, but you can edit them, remove songs, add songs. You can even create playlists on here and export them. So we have import, export, delete. This is really handy, you know, really nice to do. One thing to note is there needs to be this like X playlist data folder. So actually, if you go back and you read my written reviews of the M0s and M0 Pro, as well as the M1 Plus, I do actually show how those playlist files need to be and where it needs to be on the card. Now, a nice trick is if you don't know any of that stuff and you don't want to do all that work, you just go into a playlist, you just go new playlist, and so you create a new one, add a song to it, export it, and then it'll create the folder on the SD card, which you can then, as well as the M3U playlist file, which you can then use to view on your computer to see how it actually wants it set up. So that's just a little trick that I learned on how to figure this stuff out. As I mentioned, this can be used as a USB DAC, which, you know what, we can probably show that here. So I have my phone. It's my Galaxy Fold 7. And I'll be right back and I will get a cable. All right, we have our cable. So on Android, usually it will, you know, detect it. And as you see, it'll change the icon like this, and I'm gonna hit play, and now so I'm using USB Audio Player Pro, and it now says USB DAC, and it is playing the file. So great, that is exactly what you want out of this thing. So now this is a USB DAC, and I can plug my headphones into the connection here. Voila. Oh, and I guess I accidentally bumped the connection, but and as you see, so this file is a 96 kilohertz file, and on here it shows 96 kilohertz. Yeah, this cable might be a little bit finicky, but anyways, that's how it works. It's pretty straightforward, pretty simple. What I also like is if you click the settings here, you also have the ability to charge or not charge the DAP while you're using it. So if you have this connected to a computer, maybe you want to charge it. But if you have it connected to your phone, maybe you don't want to charge it, and you know, because it'll use the battery from your phone. So overall, that is a pretty nice and straightforward thing. which I do appreciate, and I do think, as I said before, that's what sets this apart from the more budget DAPs, is these extra quality of life features like that. Now, about the USB DAC mode, one thing I will say is it doesn't have the greatest latency, so you're going to notice some delay between, you know, the lip syncing of like videos and stuff like that. So it's not meant to be a low latency solution for watching movies and gaming. It's meant to be more for just audio playback. Just something to be aware of. Bluetooth. Let's get into the Bluetooth. So let's go over this first. So these are the devices that I used for the most of the review. I used my AirPods 4, the ANC version, with connecting it AAC, and worked perfectly fine. The AirPods Pro 4 Plus also worked great at both LDAC and aptX. Same with the new, still unreleased FIO Link TWS. Review on that soon. Also had no issues. And then, of course, the Sennheiser Momentum 5. No issues at all using the aptX codec. As I mentioned before, if you want access to higher res codecs or different codecs, you can get a USB-C Bluetooth transmitter, which I actually did use. I was using the FIO AirLink and the Sennheiser BTD 700. Both worked fine. It just basically connects as a USB-C audio device. As I mentioned, it's Bluetooth 5, so you have AAC, SBC, AAC, aptX, and LDAC, as well as the 3 LDAC modes. 330 kilobits, 660 kilobits, and 990 kilobits per second. So if we go into the settings here and go Bluetooth and turn it on, it just tells you that it's starting. And in here you can actually select the, oh, it automatically connected to my phone. So, well, here we go. If you want to use a Bluetooth DAC, you can do this. And it even tells you the song name. So if I hit play, it'll hit play on there, connected to LDAC. So this is what the Bluetooth DAC experience would be like, and then you can just plug in a, something into the output and listen to your music this way. This is great if you have, like, say, a music subscription through Apple Music or Qobuz or Tidal, and you want to get it onto your, you want to use your DAP to play back the music. You can even change the tracks, as you can see. So pretty nice overall, isn't it? Yes, we will quit Bluetooth. So, anyways, back to the demonstration. Here you can select the different options for LDAC, and then you have obviously the other codecs you can select. Bluetooth headset volume. This is to help in case, usually there's a lot of independent volume going on. So there's the volume on the headset, and then there's the volume on the device. Depending on your headset or earbud, it might not handle those very well. So this, if you have a low volume when you connect your Bluetooth headphone, even though it says you've maxed the volume on your headset, you could use this and you can see if that fixes your low volume issue. In order to find new devices, you just hit search, and these are previously paired things that I have on here. One thing I will show you is to test Bluetooth performance. Not only do I listen to it via Bluetooth, but I also test using my QDelix 5K. And the reason I do that is because the QDelix 5K will actually show you the bitrate currently played to the connected device. And I also have IEMs plugged into the QDelix 5K just to see, the bitrate just to see if there's like any stuttering or volume issues or anything like that. So one thing I noticed is I could not get 990 kilobits per second at all. So it wouldn't connect at the 990 kilobit per second mode, at least to the QDelix 5K. I don't know why. Maybe it's a bug. Maybe there's something on the QDelix side I didn't like, but it wouldn't do it. Either way, when I selected the high quality mode within the settings, this is what it happened. This is what it connected at, 660 kilobits per second. As you can see, it is a very smooth experience. Now this is the actual 660 kilobit per second mode, so hitting the standard mode. Next is the automatic mode, which connects up to 492 kilobits per second on this device. I have the QDLX5K about 1 meter apart from the M0 Pura. That's usually how I test all of the devices. So this isn't bad per se, but as you can see, it's not getting up to the highest mode. One thing I should note is LDAC is very sensitive to environmental interference. If you have a lot of Wi-Fi or other Bluetooth devices present, that does affect the bitrate it will connect at. aptX was perfect. We got 384 kilobits per second here, and that's what you want to see. And the AAC encoder used, didn't switch. The AAC encoder is pretty decent. We're getting about 137 kilobits per second on average, but it peaked up to about 145 and also went down to about 125, so in that range. More than likely, this won't be perceptible to most people, but this is just something to know if you are concerned about that kind of stuff. So as I mentioned, I used my AirPods 4 ANC version with this, and that is usually a big concern with a lot of people. Will it work or will it not work with this DAP? It worked perfectly fine. Connected right away. All of the playback controls worked fine too. So on the stem, I could, play, pause, next track, previous track, that kind of thing. In fact, all of those Bluetooth headphones and earbuds that I showed you in that list, as well as many others I tested that I didn't list in that list, all worked perfectly fine. Connected instantly, had no issues, and it was just a pleasant Bluetooth experience. One thing I will note before moving on is I do not like the music playback behavior when you connect a Bluetooth device. When you connect a Bluetooth device, it will automatically start playing music. I don't like that. I wish they would stop it. A lot of non-Android DAPs do that. I hate it. Let me control when to play the music. So Shanling, if you're listening, please maybe look into that so that when you connect a Bluetooth device, it doesn't automatically start playing music. Okay, battery life and charging. So Shanling says to expect about 9.5 hours of battery life with this thing. And I can tell you right now, you're not going to get 9.5 hours of battery life in the majority of situations. On average, with mild screen use, so usually that is selecting a playlist, listening to songs, using the controls to go to the next song or play pause when I need to, and then turn it on when I want to maybe select a different playlist to listen to. With the brightness at about half, and with the volume on low gain set at about 35-40, using IEMs, I was getting about 8 or 8.5 hours. 8.5 is maybe being generous. It was more closer to 8 hours most of the time with most IEMs. If I were to use headphones that required a little bit more volume, I was getting between 6 and 7 hours of battery life. A lot of this is dependent on the amount of screen use you have and whether you're doing a lot of stuff on the device itself. So a lot of people would say this is like disappointing battery life, and I think objectively, like in a vacuum, maybe not objectively, but like in isolation, just as a number of, between, let's say, 6 and 8 hours of battery life on average, it sounds low. But when you think of it in the context of how small this thing is, and like, because literally how small this thing is, right? Like the size of my watch. And the capabilities that it has, like being able to use IEMs and, I'll get into it, but a lot of over-ear headphones, it is kind of impressive. But in my opinion, it does not live up to the claims, and neither did the M0s or M0 Pro. So this is a little bit power hungry in this regard. Maybe there's still some optimizations they can do, but that is the battery life expectations. So if you're going to get this device having high hopes for extra battery life, this might be disappointing. So just keep these things in mind. Syncing music and playlists. So as I mentioned, syncing music is pretty straightforward and easy. You use a micro SD card, so you can connect this to a computer and copy your files to the card. Or, you can take the card out, connect it to a USB to micro SD card adapter and copy files that way. In my opinion, that is just the fastest way to do it, because you will get proper like file transfer speeds this way. Usually when you're going through the like USB bus, because this is going to be USB 2, and going through the USB controller on here is going to be on the slower side. So if you're copying a lot of files, just get an adapter. If it's just a handful, you could probably do it just connecting the cable to the DAP and then copying music that way. So I always, oh, and it also needs to be an exFAT or FAT32. So I always create like a folder called music, and then I break it up by like the SD files or lossless files or the handful of MP3s that I have, and then the artist and then the album, as I mentioned before. And then I already explained about the playlist folder, which you need to have on here with the M3U playlist inside. And then, yes, as I mentioned before, the library scanning can take time, so it's just something to be aware of. But, you know, a DAP this size in this price range that supports this many files, so minimum, you know, say minimum 20,000 in the music library software, and then basically unlimited in the file browser, is actually kind of nice to have. And it supports up to 2 terabyte micro SD cards, which, you know, quite a few budget or under $200 DAPs do not. So it's nice to see that. The overall user experience. I would say my overall user experience with this has been generally positive. There is a learning curve. So I already had this learning curve when I used the like M0 Pro and M0s before this. That was a little bit more frustrating because I was trying to do too much too quickly on those DAPs. And I think, yeah, on the M0 Pro, I even removed the screen protector on it because I thought I was doing something wrong. I was just doing the gestures wrong, is what the problem was. So there's not really any issues with like the gesture navigation or the speed of this operating system or the hardware or anything like that. It's going to come down to your expectations of how you want your device to perform. It's not going to be like a modern smartphone where it's going to basically be quicker than you are. So manage your expectations about how you want this to be. So you've seen me use this thing. If you have big fingers, maybe it's going to be a little bit too finicky for you. And if that's the case, then probably better off not getting it. But if you have like average size fingers like me and you can manage the single focus nature of this with the, you know, slight sensitivity at times of the screen, then it should be okay. I guess one thing I actually did not show off is the now playing screen. So let us find, sure, let's play a song by Jerry Cantrell here. So this is the now playing screen and gives you all the basic information. So you have the track name, you have the artist, you have playback controls. After a few seconds, it goes and shows the album art. And the album art is obviously behind here, darkened. There's also this A/B. So what this does is you can actually like play back a specific part of the track if you want to. And then obviously there is this seek bar, which does respond pretty decently, in my opinion. Obviously, playback controls work just as they would. It also tells you the track number, so 1 out of 25, because this is a double album, it sees it as one album, which is fine. You know, I guess I could be picky and say, hey, why don't you, you know, detect disc numbers, but that's another rant for another time. Anyways, so all this is like fine. You can see like the track progressing time and also the total track time. If you swipe from right to left, you get more options. So you can add to playlist. You can hit the info button here and it tells you the info about the track, even the location of it on the card. If you go settings, this just brings you to the playback settings. This is the playback order. So if you wanted to like to shuffle it, you could do it that way. This will add it to your favorites. And there's also this kind of nifty playback speed. So you have 1.25. 1.5. Ah, come on. 2. And back to 1. So if you want to go faster, you can. It's kind of nice to have that kind of feature. And then if you have like the LRC file, you can also have lyrics displayed here. So I don't have that, so that's basically what that is. And yeah, I would say it, it's pretty good in this way. Actually, let's go into a playlist here and just do that. And I just want to maybe find a, we'll go shuffle, but actually this might be a good one. So just to show off the screen colors a little bit, I guess because I didn't talk about that before, 240 by 240 resolution of this very small touchscreen. And as you can see, the colors are pretty good. So if you got like a decent, file, like even something that's 500 by 500, it'll look pretty damn phenomenal on here. Color saturation is good. You can see the nice gradient colors pretty well. Oop, I wanted to actually do next track, but I need to triple. Also, if you have a high-res file, it'll go HR at the top for high-res. So this is a 96 kilohertz file, I believe. So maybe I'll just pull back from the camera here, and you can see, you know what, the color is pretty good. Things are pretty readable. It's a very small screen, so it's even hard to see like OK Computer and Radiohead there. But you know what, it's pretty readable, pretty good if you look. Not bad, right? For a very small DAP. So that is the screen, that is the music now playing screen, and that is the overall user experience that that I have had with this device. So overall, very positive. Again, just manage your expectations. Output power and noise floor. So the output power for this is 100 milliwatts using the 3.5 millimeter connection, and 250 milliwatts using the 4.4 millimeter balanced connection. Typically though, like that might sound low, but to be honest, it will get you more than enough for most things. So actually, I will just quickly put this up here. So this is generally what I used for most of my testing with the M0 Pura. So these IEMs and these headphones, I won't go through every single one of them. One that I will point out though is the Campfire Audio Andromeda 10. It's kind of a sensitive IEM, and you know what? I didn't hear any background hiss or noise when using it, so it was pretty quiet. It's a pretty black background on the M0 Pura. So if you have sensitive IEMs and you're concerned about that, the M0 Pura will be just fine. That also does go for the 4.4 millimeter balance connection. I did test it with that, didn't hear a thing. So the Andromeda 10 and the Iris are probably the most sensitive IEMs that I have. And again, I didn't hear anything. So kudos to Shanling for how they implemented their, their electronic protection system so that there's no electrical interference within the actual DAP itself, which in a small DAP is kind of hard to do. Just to pick a few other things here. So I have this is the Dunu 242. This is one of my favorite IEMs right now. I know it came out a little while ago. I did review it a while ago on my website, HiFi-Oasis.com. But I kind of came back to it because it just sounds so good, So this is a tribrid IEM, and the reason I bring this out is because, it uses a tribrid driver configuration. 2 dynamic drivers, 4 balanced armatures, and 2 planars, I think. Right. Anyways, when you have a hybrid driver like that, it's very important that you have enough consistent output power to help the track transition between the different drivers that are being used in the IEM. And if you don't have like that consistent, I'm not talking about the amount of power, I'm talking about the consistency of that power. It needs to be very stable. If it's not stable, it kind of goes a little bit all over the place, and it's very hard for the output connection to keep up with transitioning between the different driver elements. Didn't have that issue on here. It was perfect. It sounds phenomenal with the M0 Pura. So I really like using this IEM with the M0 Pura. I feel it is a very good combination. Another really good combination, I did mention it, is this one. This is the Campfire Audio Iris. So why I like this one is because this IEM is very small, and the M0 Pura is also very small. So this is like my ultimate portable go-to combination. Turn that down. Because this doesn't require a lot of, this is also a sensitive IEM, it doesn't require a lot of output power. So, you know, about 25, it actually can be a decent volume for a lot of tracks. And, you know, this thing is very tiny, very small. It kind of reminds me of like Sennheiser's like IE series, the IE200, the IE 600. You know, that sort of level of small and comfort. And, you know, it's just a great combination in my opinion. And lastly, I thought I had it over here. I did not. The Focal Azurus headphones. So I'll just bring up my list again. The Focal Azurus. So it's a pretty good headphone. You know, it's not that powerful, or not that hard to drive, rather. You know, but sounded really good with this thing, and it's a very expensive headphone. It's about $450 US. For me, it's like closer to like 700 Canadian. Sounded really great with this, you know, $140 digital audio player. As did, surprisingly, the Hi-Fi Man Edition XV. So, you know, output power-wise or ohm-wise, it's not a demanding headphone, the XV. You can usually get enough volume. The problem is usually with the presentation. So to get the like sort of consistent amount of output power to give you like a nice like powerful presentation from it is kind of hard to do. At least to my ears, for what I like to hear from it. And this does it just fine on high gain. On low gain, not so much, but on high gain for sure. So I guess to sum up output power and noise floor, very low noise floor, works well with all IEMs, didn't have any issues. And it will work good with, I would say, a lot of over-ear headphones. Just as if you're going up to like say the Sennheiser HD660S2 or, you know, more higher end planars, don't expect this to keep up with that. Let's be realistic. So that brings us to the sound quality section. So as I mentioned, this has dual CS43131 DAC chips, and they implemented it very well. As I said, because of the, you know, low noise floor and the amount of output power and just how clean the output is, Shanling did a really good job with this. And I won't go into the like macro details of this because I don't think you need to know that for a $140 digital audio player. But this does retain, you know, Shanling's sort of house sound, I guess you could call it, or their house tuning. You know, which means it's kind of leaning slightly warm in the bass and the mid-range while still having sort of a smoother treble presentation. But the overall like output is very clean, and it just sounds very coherent and balanced. So it did actually sound very close to these two, which is the M0s and M0 Pro. So despite the different DAC implementations, these three do sound similar to me. I won't go nitpicking again too much, but if I were to be, the one thing I will say is if I will be that nitpicky, I think the M0 Pura does sound the best of these three, but it's not night and day, and it's certainly not enough to, you know, choose one over the other per se. If one of these was like much cheaper, I would maybe choose the cheaper one. But suffice to say, the M0 Pura sounds very good. And they did a phenomenal job of implementing something that sounds this good in such a small package. The technical performance also is very good, so you get good enough detail retrieval, good enough imaging performance, and good enough soundstage. And what I mean by good enough is, you know, we'll take this guy here, the Campfire Audio Andromeda 10, an $1,800 IEM. I did not feel like the M0 Pura was holding this back in any way. In fact, it sounded really damn good. So I think that is pretty much a testament to what Shanling has accomplished here. So, getting into my final thoughts of the Shanling M0 Pura. Your main compromises are going to probably be the screen size, the, let's say, lack of customization or lack of granular features within the operating system. So if you want that, you're probably going to want to go with an Android digital audio player. But if what I showed you is good enough, then hey, that's good enough, right? So this also isn't focused on, streaming app support and stuff like that. It's more just for basic offline playback. You just want to, plug in some headphones or IEMs and just pick up, album or a playlist and just sit back and listen, or go on a walk and listen, That's what this is for. It does it very well. If you need a DAP that has, say, longer than, the 7 or 8 hours of battery life that I was getting with this, then this probably also isn't for you. But I think 7 to 8 hours will suit most people just fine. It does take about 2 hours to charge fully, but that's not too bad. So I guess that kind of wraps it up. And when choosing a DAP, you have to just kind of understand your own requirements and if these kind of things line up with your requirements. So that said, I really like the M0 Pura, and if you're in the market for a very small, very portable digital audio player that sounds great and does enough things correct to be considered good enough, then I think this could be for you. As always though, let me know what you guys think of this thing. If you have one, what do you think of it? If you've had the previous versions of the M0 series, like the M0s or M0 Pro, what are your thoughts on these very small form factor digital audio players? Let me know down in the comments what you guys think of that. Also, let me know what you think of this review. Did you like it? Did you hate it? If you liked it, click like, please. That really helps a lot. Also, subscribe for more videos. I will have links in the description below for everything I talked about here, as well as my website, HiFi-Oasis.com. And as always, thank you for watching. I'll see you next time.